And okay. Welcome to this alumni and family shiur. I'm Mr. Strassman, and it's a pleasure to represent the TABC guidance department here in this capacity. So I titled this shiur the 42nd Pesach. It's not like I counted them, but this one was kind of easy to figure out. It's actually I want to examine the Haftorah for day one of Pesach. If you look at it, it's describing the first time the Jews brought the Korban Pesach, observed Pesach in Eretz Yisrael. So if you do the math, like, okay, number one Pesach was leaving Mitzrayim. But then they got stuck for 40 years in the Midbar. So theoretically there were, 40 Pesach units, whatever you want to call them. And then, okay, here we are. So we're up to Pesach 42. And for some reason, Chazal thought this was important and we should read about this on Pesach, Bo Bayom. Like I said, I'm not going to resist the urge to say hello to folks as they come in. So we're going to say hello to Shmuel Dickel. Welcome. Shmuel Dickel's been learning a lot with the grown.
Hey, told me to talk to you.
Yeah. Though I am going to ask if we could mute our things that way.
Okay.
No, it's okay.
Already been shut down. It's been 30 seconds. All right.
I know, right? Just like in school. Anyway. So just to bring you up to speed, so we were wondering why Chazal thought that we should read about the 42nd Pesach as the Haftorah for Pesach on Yom Rishon of the Chag. Like, what message is there? And it's also like, I feel like they might have overshot it a little bit, where the parts that we read, 3/4 of it really have to do with Pesach, but then you get into some other like strange kind of stuff, which you're wondering, why is that in the Haftorah? Who cares? So the part where everybody has to get a Brit Milah makes sense, because we know that you have to, if you want to eat from the Korban Pesach, you can't be an Arel, you have to be circumcised. Okay, so there's a famous thing where they make this like mountain of foreskins, which kind of grosses some people out. Other people are really excited about it. And then there's this great line where the Navi tells us that Yehoshua, finally got rid of all the impurity from Egypt. This is like prime time Pesach material. And then we get into like this strange encounter between Yehoshua and this Malach, and you're like, well, I think we could have just, call it a day before, like, we brought the Korban Pesach, and that's it. But then we have this story. So why is that so important for us to read on day one of Pesach? So we will examine that a little bit. I know that some people like to see stuff if you're reading it, so I'll share my screen here. Oh yeah, I got to click share for that to work. Okay, here we go. Okay, cool. So here we go. I hope it's nice and big if you're looking on a screen. So this is the end of the Haftorah, right? So Bnei Yisrael, camp at Gilgal. And they bring the Korban Pesach, which is great. They even brought it on time. They're not going to get marked late. Excellent. And then they eat from what was available at around in the land, presumably some kinds of fruits or vegetables, maybe. But look at that. They have matzot. Good news. So they even had matzah on Pesach. And then, fun fact, the man stopped falling. The next day, when they ate from whatever was available in the land, they didn't have any man available after. So that year, they had to eat from whatever they could find in Eretz Canaan. So, I know what Sturm is going to say. He's going to raise his hand. And he's going to say, of course, that's a Pesach thing. Like, we eat some things, we don't eat other things. On Pesach, we don't have other things. Okay, and you know what? Sturm is going to be right. That's a very Pesach kind of a theme, but it's in the Haftorah. So what's that doing there? And then we continue. And now it's getting good, right? Yehoshua is going for a stroll outside of Yericho, Vayisa he lifts his eyes, Vayar, and he sees, Vihine Isho made the Negdo. There's some guy standing opposite him, the Charbo Shlufa Biado, and his sword is, drawn in his hand, like it's like high noon, it's like getting ready for a draw. Okay, and of course he does the logical thing. Vayelech Yehoshua Elav, he goes over to say hello. Vayomer Lo, Halanu Ata Im Litzarenu, right? Who goes there? Are you on our side, or are you maybe not on our side? Like, what's your deal, man? Vayomer, and this person says, Lo, ki ani sar tzeva Hashem. I am the officer of God's army. Atabati, ta 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 ta. Now I'm here. Hooray! Okay. Also a strange kind of a thing on Pesach, but let's continue. Vayipol Yehoshua el panav, right? And Yehoshua falls down on his face on the ground. Vayishtachu, and he bows. Vayomer lo, oh, this is great. Now I'm going to hear some grand direction from God. Mahashem medaber el avdo. What does God tell his servant? Vayomer starts Hashem el Yehoshua, and now this is like the big reveal. Okay, what does he say? Shal na'alecha me'al raglecha. Take your shoes off. Right now you can totally see why we're reading about this on Pesach. Okay, because you're standing on holy ground. Vayas Yehoshua came, so Yehoshua took his shoes off. Do we take our shoes off at the Seder? I don't have that minhag. Maybe Tzvi doesn't have that minhag. I know that my parents don't have that minhag, but that's what we're reading about. Oh, and here we go. The end of the Haftorah. V'richot sogeret u'musugeret mipnei b'nei Yisrael. Ein yotzei ve'ein ba. Grand finale. No one could go in or out of Yericho. This is beautiful. This is exactly what we should read on Pesach, right? Right. I'm a little confused. I'm just going to say, why are we reading about this? What does this have to do with anything? So, in the interest of time, I'm just going to skip the embellishing the question and go straight to the answer. How about that? So, here's what I think. I submit the following to you. I think that in those two details that seem like they're extra, the end of the man and this interesting encounter with the angel, I think there's a theme that really does have to do with Pesach. And that is as follows. Let's examine some of the guys who comment on the end of the man. So here's what Mitzudat David says. Vayishpot Haman af kimiyom mitat Moshe b'shiva ba'adar pasak Haman milyarad. We know, okay, Moshe died a little more than a month ago, and that's when the man stopped falling. Mikol makom, nevertheless, hayun nazonin banes miman shebichleihem. Okay, so there was a nace that they had this leftover man. It didn't expire. When they gradually ate it up, they had meals after the man stopped falling, but now they've reached the end of their man. Okay, interesting. So they reached the end, whereas before they had it, now they don't. And then Rashi adds in, od libnei Yisrael man. He says, it's significant to note the wording of the pasuk that they didn't have it again, right? Lefichach, therefore, vayochlu me'avor haaretz. So it's kind of causative. Because they had no man, that's why they ate from whatever was available. And he paints the picture. It's like if you go to your kid, hey, why are you eating plain waffles? Oh, because I don't have frozen waffles or blueberry waffles or waffles with syrup. I don't have the better thing that I liked, but I have this. So that's what I'm eating. Okay. We would have preferred to eat man, which is sweet and awesome, but since we don't have that, okay, so we'll eat from whatever's available on the ground. And what does that tell us? It tells us that right now, okay, so they have to eat man because they don't have something else, but the theme here is who brought them the man? Whose merit was this? That was Moshe Rabbeinu's merit, right? Moshe Rabbeinu died, and now it's when a loved one passes away, of course there's the kavura, then there's shiva. These are sad times, but then afterward it's okay, at some point you go through all of Zadie's stuff. You give away the shirts here. You find someone who wants to pick up the belts. In the end, you sell the house. Eventually, you get to moving on, and it's oh, that was the last thing. Moshe died. The 42nd Pesach is really the first Pesach without Moshe Rabbeinu. We ate up all our man, and like now we're here. Oh, like, okay. So that's sort of like an emotional piece to this Pesach. It's really it's a big deal that now they have to eat from the grain of the land. Like you've got to think that when they were scrounging around for food, like they had to like start thinking, oh wait, like now it's really happening. Like Moshe brought us through the desert. Here we're in Eretz Yisrael. This Pesach is a big deal. This is our first Carbon Pesach without Moshe Rabbeinu, and what does that mean? So we can see an interesting idea. We can think about this must have been on Yehoshua's mind as he's walking around outside of Yericho. And because that's what the text told us, that they stopped having them on. Oh yeah, Moshe's not here. So Yehoshua's like, right, I'm not Moshe Rabbeinu. I can't magic us some man. I don't have that kind of merit. I don't get that spiritual power. And the next thing that happens is he bumps into this angel guy. So I skipped it here. Okay, here we go. So what's the deal with the angel saying atabati? Why is that important? He's okay, I can see that you're here. What does he mean? Says Rashi, le'ezratcha, right, to help you. So pashut pshat, like I'm here to help. She'ein adam yachol lilachem aleha l'tovsha lahapil hachoma, right? So Yericho famously has this big wall. So I'm here to help you because I'm an angel and I can like do stuff against walls. Very nice. Aval, but Bimei Moshe Rabach, in the days of Moshe, your Rebbe, Bati, I came, V'lo chavetzbi, and he didn't want me. Shene'emar, Imin panecha holchim, etc. So what's Rashi talking about here? The angel is saying, Ata Bati, now I'm here because I came before. I'm a familiar face. I should be anyway. So what's the story there? Do we find that Moshe sees an angel and says, "Go away"? Like where does that get read? So we go back to Shemot, where the Jews did a sin that was bad, and then Hashem said, "Okay, so guess what? I'm not going to lead you through the desert anymore. V'shalachti lefanecha malach." Right? I'm going to send an angel instead of myself. And what does Moshe say? No dice. Not good enough, God. Sorry, but if it's not going to be you, we're not interested. Love, says Moshe to Hashem, we're only going to do this with you leading us. So there really was a time when Moshe said, thank you, but no thank you to a malach. And this is the guy. Here he is. So we're going to turn to our good friend, the Ramban, who is going to explain to us what the real backstory is here. That you could ask, why would God make a gezerah? I'm going to send an angel, not myself, if he's going to turn around later and say, okay, Moshe, you win the tug of war. I'll come with you. So why not just skip to saying, like, okay, I'll go with you? So the answer is, says the Ramban, right? Moshe asked for mercy instead of having a malach. So here we go. So according to this mahalach, that which Hashem decreed, it wasn't for Moshe in his time. After Moshe died, then he would send a malach. Okay, so in our Haftorah, while we're remembering, by the way, Moshe died, here's the malach. This is it. So like this is like one flows into the next. Like there's like a story unfolding here. That's really cool. We're gonna right. So yeah. So that's what the Ramban says. We're going to skip to the end where he really spells it out in like mind-blowing terms, the underlined part. Right? So according to this story that Moshe like banished this malach who would boomerang back for Yehoshua, it's very true that this malach did not accompany the Jews all the days of Moshe. Why in bold? This totally deserves bold. I hope you appreciate the bold. Ki Moshe haya mimale mikomo. Unbelievable. Moshe replaces the malach. How cool is that? I think that's pretty cool. That he was able to say, no, Hashem, we don't need your malach. I got this. So now jump forward to Yehoshua's stroll around Yericho. He's already kind of sad that Moshe died, and now they ate up all their man. So like it's really hitting home. And who shows up? The guy that Moshe was able to replace. So if you're Yehoshua, you're like, oh, great. Here's another thing I can't do. I would love to be able to say to this malach, thanks, but no thanks. I got this, buddy. But I can't because I'm not Moshe. Moshe died, and we just ate up all his man. And now there's this guy here who's showing up because Moshe's dead. Like, this is a really emotional thing for Yehoshua. Like, that's really where we find Yehoshua. And what is the message that we see the angel give to Yehoshua when he's asking, what am I supposed to do? The same thing that Hashem told Moshe when Moshe felt the same way, right? We remember when Moshe is kind of tapped for this job of being Moshe Rabbeinu at the burning bush. He said no thanks. He didn't want to do it, but in the end, we know that he said yes. And it's the same thing that Moshe was told. Shal na'alecha mi'al raglecha, that you have to take off your shoes. Why? Ki hamakom asher ata omed alav kodeshu. Because right where you're standing, wherever you're at, that place is holy. You got this, Yehoshua, says the angel. Like you could do this. And guess what? Moshe needed the same push. So you're really not like the worst person to figure this out. Like you're the best person to figure this out. And how does the Haftorah end? Where Yehoshua gets it. He gets the message and he turns his sights to Yericho. Like, okay, Yericho is a big place. Nobody's coming in, no one's coming out. We can kind of see the wheels turning a little bit in a good direction. So I really think that's an important message for us to consider on Pesach. The idea of the 42nd Pesach is that more than other holidays, I think Pesach recognizes how life ain't always peachy. We recognize we've had some really, really hard times, and that's part of our tradition. There's Avdus and there's Cherus. It's not just one or the other, but we kind of roll them all up into the same happy ball of matzah meal, and that's what we think about on Pesach. We're starting Sefer Vayikra. We're going to learn about Korbanot, and the Netziv asks, I think somewhere in the Tochacha, that's why I don't have it as a source. The Netziv asks, I guess I can stop sharing this right now. Why is forget that. I hope I'm not messing this up here. But he asks why we don't see the words Reach Nichoach LaHashem, why we don't see that in connection with the Karban Pesach. I didn't look myself, but I believe the Netziv. And apparently that we don't find that seemingly like the stamp of approval, right? Like your Karban was great. It was very good smelling to God, but we don't see that for a Karban Pesach. And we know we just described the Karban Pesach has to be really, really special. So it says the Netziv, because the Karban Pesach is not always offered in times of Kedusha. It's not always offered in the Beit HaMikdash. And he gives the example of like small pockets of Jews in post-Churban Habayis who would probably have to like pay off some Roman guard, but they would go to Har Habayis and they would offer the Karban Pesach even after the Churban. And it goes to show us that Pesach is one of those holidays where we really feel it. That it's not always such an easy thing, and we celebrate and we draw strength from those times. Even it wouldn't be a TABC shiur without mentioning something from Rabbi Adler and by extension Rav Soloveitchik. So if you've heard this one, that's okay, but you're gonna hear it again. There's a famous idea from Rav Soloveitchik. He explains the Gemara in Chagiga, which says that the two Nevi'im who saw the Ma'aseh Merkava, that God revealed himself to them in all of his glory. We have Yeshayahu and we have Yechezkel. And the Gemara says that Yeshayahu is kind of like, a guy from a big city, and Yechezkel is sort of like a farmer, like some kind of hick, from some small place. And why is that? It seems like at first glance, the Gemara is saying that Yeshayahu was bigger and better, and Yechezkel was like the Shlomazel, poor guy, but both of them are Nevi'im. So like, what's the deal? So the Gemara is comparing them that Yeshayahu didn't go into so much detail with his description of God, but we have Yechezkel who has like a humongous, like, wow, there was this and that, and this angel had like lots of wings, and that guy was on his throne. And so Yeshayahu kind of comes off as a guy from like a big city who always sees the king. Like, I don't need to describe him so much, because why? Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzava'ot, Milocho haaretz. The whole land is full of God awareness. I don't have to describe so much, right? But we have Yechezkel, who's living when? Post Churban, when he's living in a time of Hester Panim, and says the Rav, that's why he has to describe in great detail, because people don't always they're not taking this for granted. They're looking for that description and to feel God a little bit, and that's where we have Baruch Kavod Hashem Mimik Homo, right? We include both of those psukim in Kedusha, because sometimes God does relate to us in a hamakom kind of way, where God is the place, where from his place, Mimik Homo, from where God's at, that's where he relates to us in a sort of far away kind of time. And that idea is oftentimes, I heard it from Rabbi Adler, but I'm sure other people do as well. They throw this in there at the Seder, where we say Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu, where sometimes at the Seder we really recognize that, that in a Hester Panim kind of way, that's a theme on Pesach, where Hashem relates to us sometimes. Miloch haaretz kavodo. It's like, wow, everybody's away. But there are also times in our history when that hasn't been the case, and where it's really felt like, oh my gosh, this is a difficult time. We're experiencing hamakom a little bit, like that aspect of God too. And I think in the brief amount of time that we have left, I think you don't need me to tell you that this is kind of a strange time for us, where I think a lot of people are experiencing God in the hamakom sense, where we are stuck in our places, and it's important to recognize that is part of Pesach. That you're not wrong if you're thinking this Pesach feels so weird. How can I? Even there are people that are starting to make Pesach that they've never made Pesach before. There are people that are gonna not use Zadie's Becher because they're at home and Zadie's at Zadie's house, right? There's a lot of angst in the air, and I don't think that's mutually exclusive from what Pesach is about. I think that if people are feeling like this is difficult, like that's not wrong. Like A, because life can be a little difficult at times, and B, because that's a theme of Pesach. The 42nd Pesach teaches us that even at times when it's difficult and when you might be feeling like it's a Hester Panim kind of a thing, that's Pesach too. That 42nd Pesach, everybody was kind of sad maybe because Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't there. And certainly Yehoshua was feeling a little bit unsure of himself. And what does he do? He it's not like, the Malach comes and tells him, like, get over this. Like, he says, from where you're at, Shal na'alecha me'al raglecha. You have to take whatever it is that you're feeling from right there, from that place. That's what you need to do. And so I think that from wherever we are at, whatever's going on in our lives, we should be able to take that into Pesach. And just to wrap up, something that's pretty special, the Ramban that I showed you goes into a number of different details that weren't directly related to the point, but in his discussion, he says that this guy, this malach that's appearing to Yehoshua, he was the malach that appeared to Yaakov, that Yaakov was talking about when he said, Hamalach hagoel oti mikol ra. And why is that an interesting thing to think about on Pesach? Because on Pesach, that's a Leil Shimurim. That's the one night of the whole year when we don't need to say Hamalach, when we can kind of emulate Moshe a little bit and say, you know what? Our Pesach is good enough. Our Seder, we did it, and we know that Hashem is watching us. We don't have to say Kriyat Shema. This is like a real minhag, that we don't have to say Kriyat Shema. We don't have to say Hamalach, that we can sort of emulate Moshe a little bit. It's no coincidence that the one night of the year where we can kind of tap into what Moshe was doing is Pesach. That's our thing that we can do for this Leil Shimurim. Wherever we're at, that is good enough. So if you're, for the first time you're making Pesach, if you're just back from Israel, and mom and dad are counting on you to lead some kind of thing at the state. Like whatever you're able to do that. That's what you should be doing. That's the avoda now. There's a line in Shulchan Aruch which talks about how Bedikat Chametz is supposed to go, and I think it really applies to our situation quite nicely. We're in Hilchos Pesach, Siman Taf Lamed Gimel. Chor shebein Yehudi lachaveiro. Let's say there's a hole. There's like some kind of wreckage that's coming between a Jew and his friend. Kol echad bodek ad makom sheyado magaat. Right? How I can't. Oh, I'm supposed to jump in the hole. What am I going to do? No, the halacha. There's Shulchan Aruch. The halacha. Do what you can do until your hand reaches. That's what you have to. That's where you check. And what about the rest? V'hashar mivatel bilibo v'dayo. Even if you can see last week's pizza pie on the bottom of this hole, right, and you can't reach it, that okay. So do what you can do, whatever your hand can reach. V'dayo. The rest of it, say that it's bato, like that's bato bilibo, right? So our efforts, whatever we're able to do, that really is good enough. That's the halacha. I didn't make this up. Don't say Strassman invented that. Shulchan Aruch did. All right. So I think taking these ideas all together, I think that the way that people are feeling now really is justified and really is validated in what Chazal wanted us to realize by making that part of the Haftorah, by throwing that in and knowing that life is not always perfect. That is a real element of Pesach, and it's something that I think a lot of people are thinking and feeling. And you heard it from me, and that's okay. That's part of the plan. Okay, so that's what I got. I'm gonna stop recording, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.